everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. As always, honored to be with you today. I don't know where you live, but today is a snowy day here in New York City. This time, the weather people promised that we were going to get like 8 to 14 inches of snow. Last night, before I went to bed, I looked at that weather app on my phone, and it said that New York City had 25 inches of snow. It's crazy. I went out at about 2 PM because I'm working on a deadline that is right now, right this second, but I needed to get up and just move for a minute. So I bundled up and went outside at about 2 o'clock, and people were shoveling and machines were shoveling, and it was crazy because no matter how quickly they were doing it, the snow was just filling right in. I don't know where you are, wherever you are, actually tell me where you are, that'd be cool to know. But all over the country and beyond, there has been major weather, and it's still happening, so hopefully you are safe, and also, if you are anywhere near snow, go out and look at it, it's really beautiful, at least right now. It's something to behold. Ah, to be in the company of things that are beautiful and uplifting and worth it is what I wanted to talk about today. It makes me invoke my grandmother, who was Carrie Freeland. I named my daughter for her, Carrie. My grandmother was one of the most positive people ever. Positive and strong. It wasn't like she was like a yes person, not at all. She was positive and strong, and she chose to see the goodness in people and in situations. Whatever was going on, she made it was a conscious choice for her to find the good in whatever it was. And that takes a lot of effort, especially in this world in which we live, where there's just so much going on. And in her world, just for context, in her world, my grandmother was born in 1889, not too many years after the end of slavery, in Baltimore, Maryland. Her family was from Calvert County, Maryland, which is, on the Eastern Shore, over in the area where Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass were, and my grandmother was alive when they were alive. I don't think she knew them, but they were in the same area, like little towns next to each other. The eastern seaboard of, Maryland was popular for Black people because it was along the escape route of the Underground Railroad, so a lot of people made their way to that part of this country in order to escape slavery and create the opportunity to make better lives for their families. So context. By the way, my grandmother never talked about any of that stuff, as most old folks did not talk about the horrors of existence. And for her and her family, who were poor, had very little money, they had very little education, even though they were really smart, they didn't have much education. She chose to not pay attention to the ugliness of the world. She chose to pay attention to the beauty and to align herself with things that would fill her cup, that would make her happy, that would take care of her family. And that is something that is worth acknowledging. My grandmother lived 101 years. So I was an adult living in New York City, living my life in ups and downs and twists and turns, and she was there, and we were close. I thought of her today as I was just thinking about how I spend my time and wondering how you spend your time. You know, who do you talk to? Who do you make time to be in each other's company? Not even just the who, but what do you spend time doing? How do you occupy your time? How do you what are your choices? And her saying one of her sayings to my sisters and me and my mother and her brother and family was, "Keep good company." She would say that with some regularity, and my mother as well. "Keep good company." What did that mean? I mean, she would talk to us about it. It matters who you talk to. It matters what you think about. It matters how you spend your time. It matters who you align yourself with because it shows something about you. Is this person, is this situation, is this opportunity something that is good for you? Does it uplift you? Is it something that's good for you and your family and your loved ones or not? And how do you make the choices that put you in those situations? And what if, heaven forbid, and it happens to all of us, you make a bad choice? Oh, that was not the best choice. That is not keeping good company. What do you do about it? I have talked about this topic before, but I'm thinking about it with fresh eyes today, in part because I have been extremely busy. As I mentioned, I have a deadline at the end of this week to finish a massive book project, and my team and I have been working triple time, more, just every second, every breath to get it done. Late nights, lots of details to do every possible thing that we can to do our best. And it has not allowed much time for anything else, not much time for being social, for sleeping, for any of those things. You probably have had experiences sometimes when you are on a really tight deadline, and that's what happens. That's what's happening for me. And say, I got a shout out to Linda. Thank you for joining, Linda. Where are you tuning in from, Linda? Tell us that. And anybody else who wants to write in the chat box can let us know where you are. I'm in Harlem, and there's a lot of snow outside my window. Uh, I my George and I went this weekend, we took a long drive because we wanted to support our friend Carla Ray, who was featured in an art show in East Hampton. And, that's in my favorite part of the world in my very favorite is Sag Harbor, but there's a place called Guildhall, which is in East Hampton, very close by, a beautiful art space. And there was an exhibition of a young man who celebrates aging. So Nesper's in Orlando. "Oh, it's warm where you are. Send us some sunshine." Well, we have sunshine, we just don't have warmth. Um, so this young man who, Jason, and I'm gonna find his whole name in a second, let me look it up because I wanna say his name out loud because it was so beautiful. Let me find it right now, and I will tell you. His name is Jason Bardi Yarmusky. Jason Bard Yarmusky. He's a 38-year-old artist who has is completely influenced in the best of ways by his grandparents, who he spent an inordinate amount of time with when he was little, like 20 plus years ago, and watched them as they aged, and that included his grandmother having Alzheimer's and, kind of being with her as her mind was deteriorating. It got him, and I know this because I interviewed him, and you can actually find the interview on my social, right here, wherever you are, you can probably find it. He learned how to play with his grandparents and find ways to extract joy even though there was a lot going on. And he really began to revere aging and the lines that come in your skin and in your hands and the way your body posture may change as you age. And he is an artist who he said he's been making art since he was a little kid. And he went to SVA, School of Visual Arts, and, like my husband also who went there, also teaches there. His work is outstanding. He had in a culture the culture we live in now where youth is revered, he is revering aging. And this show, which has more than 40 pieces in it, primarily is looking at people who are older. The range is certainly over 50, um, and how they're aging and how they're, welcoming who they are. And my friend Carla Ray Prober was included, and when I asked him, "Well, why did you include Carla Ray?" He says, "'Cause she's a badass," which she is, but Carla Ray is 70 something, I don't know, I've never asked her, but she embraces well, not but, and she embraces her age. Why am I telling you all of this? Because it was exciting to go and support my friend. It was a big drive. We drove there and back same day for 2 reasons. 1, the storm threatened to make us, um, not be able to leave, and also I've got my deadline. But it was worth it to the point of keeping good company to go and support our friend when she was being celebrated by this young man at a time when well, in her case, everybody who meets her thinks she's beautiful inside and out. But in a culture that does not necessarily celebrate aging, it was a beautiful thing to see that. And so for me, part of keep good company is show up for your people, even when you're busy, even when you're stretched. Now, that doesn't mean you can show up all the time everywhere because you do need to also stay focused on whatever your responsibilities are. But when you can't show up for your people, that is part of keeping good company, showing your face, showing your love, being there for someone. And in times of celebration, in times of trauma, in times that your heart tells you that's what you should do. What does it mean to you to keep good company? What does it mean to you to show up for people who matter to you? It means a lot to them. Think about for yourself. When someone has shown up for you, when you were feeling tender, when you were celebrating and you wanted your loved ones there. Hey, when they don't show up, you feel it. When they do show up, your heart just opens a little bit more. Keeping good company, a big part of that is showing up. Now, some folks have been writing in, let's see, there's somebody coming from Birmingham, Alabama. Hey there. And we have Orlando, we have Birmingham. Where else are you all calling in from, signing in from? And what do you think about this notion of keeping good company? Is it something that you pay attention to? You know, I think of my grandmother's wisdom because it was so specific about many things, but all of it around having a positive outlook about being making the choice to see the good, making that choice. And we can make any kind of choice. And I remember, you know, I probably have told you all, I teach a class at FIT. This week will be the start of my 3rd semester, but last semester, I had a great group, as I have each time, and one of the students wrote to me to say that it's a journalism class that I teach, and it's, a news class, and so, you know, how to collect the news, how to write the news, that kinda thing, and she said to me that she was really pleased and surprised that what I do is to help them to find the positive in the news. Now, this is not Pollyanna, this is not glossing over what is, real, but we can make a choice as to what we pay attention to. Even in the world of hard news, when you're looking at things that are difficult, you can look for what is good in the difficult. What are the positive lessons? Where is there good on the planet? Can we find it and highlight it? And I appreciated that my student pointed out, she said, you know, a lot of professors are not doing that. You know, we're living in tough times and they're talking about that. And it's not that we didn't talk about those things, but it wasn't my choice to belabor those things. And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be your choice either. We choose how we live. We choose what we think about, who we spend time with, how, from our waking moment to our sleeping moment, we are negotiating our lives. It is our choice. And so often people don't realize how much power they have. And I mean, until you realize it, you don't have it. It could be right there sitting right next to you, and you're like, I can't do this. I can't do that. I understand that. I've had plenty of times where I feel like I can't do something and I'm bound by something that is beyond my control. But in the moment when you realize, no, I'm not, I am in charge of my life. I make my own choices. I can choose to stay in a situation, walk away from a situation, talk to this person, not talk to that person. Be quiet when quiet is the best thing for me to do. Speak up when it's the best thing for me to do. All of these things are possible when you understand and claim your power. You have the ability and the authority to negotiate your life. So let's take a look at the quote that I found. Of course, Carrie Freeland's quote is keep good company, but I found another one that supports this notion and want to share it with you um, now. And that, let's see, do we have it as a slide? If we do not, I'm going to pull it up on my phone. Just a moment. I have it here somewhere. Fallon, do you have the quote? Or maybe I'm just supposed to stick with my grandmother's quote. There is a quote that I found. I don't know why it's not showing up on my thing. Wait, let me see because I did find one. Let's just look real quick. This is live, so this is what happens when you're in a live space. It must not have shown up for her. Anyhow, I'm not going to spend my time on that. The point of it, really, maybe the point is that I'm just supposed to focus on my grandmother's wisdom, because the point was keep good company. It was just giving more examples of what that looks like. So, what does that look like? I think that in my experience, oh, I see Stephanie Wild, who used to be my next door neighbor. Stephanie, where are you now? Are you in Florida? All the Florida people, send us some sunshine. What does it mean to keep good company? I believe that it means being conscious and intentional about everything that you do. That's something that my friend Lejeune and I have talked about since we were early 20s. When you pay attention to how you are living your life, I think she talks about ordered steps. When you pay attention, when you are conscious about where you place your feet, one foot in front of the other, when you are conscious of that, then what happens? Then you are aware of whether you are stepping into a space that makes sense for you or not. So let's think about, I was just out in the snow. Some of you probably are have been out in the snow or are going to. Where literally do you put your steps? Where do you put your feet? Now, I was walking outside. Normally, there's a sidewalk, and you can see it. At 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, there was part of the sidewalk that was cleared, but as I mentioned earlier, they kept clearing it, and it kept filling up because it was snowing really hard. And, I mean, within, like, 5 seconds, my hat was covered with snow. It was like that because it was windy too. Well, when you're looking down, where are you putting your feet? You're putting your feet on snow, and that is not the safest thing to do, but it's what you have to do if you go outside. So conscious and intentional. I wasn't running in the snow. I know better than that. There were a couple of kids who were running, and kids is probably okay because when they fall down, their bones don't usually break. When you get older, you got to be mindful of those things. Taking care of yourself, thinking, right? Where do you put your feet? Think about that as a metaphor. Where do you put your feet when you begin your day? Where do you put your feet? How do you step out? Where do you go? What do you do? How do you move forward? And do you move towards something that you know, or everything that you know tells you it is good? Or do you just do what you've always done? And if you do what you've always done, what happens? If you're not conscious and intentional about your movement, about where you're headed, where do you end up? Have you ever had that happen? My mother used to say that she was like a horse. She's driving her car and, we've gone somewhere and it's time to come home or go someplace else. Maybe if it's time to go someplace else, and she ended up home. She's like, "Ugh, I'm like a horse. A horse will always go home." In the busyness of a particular day, she may have, there are 3 or 4 places where we had to go that were on the list, and she's just on autopilot with 3 children trying to keep everything going. And on a couple of occasions, we ended up home, probably where we needed to be when she had one more stop. So that's not a bad thing. But what if you are just out? You don't have a plan. You end up somewhere. Then what? You look around. Who's there? Is this where you're supposed to be? You look around and see, is this an environment that is going to be uplifting for me, or is it going to bring me down? Is this a place where I can contribute goodness, or is it a place where I need to leave? Is this a relationship that is serving me, or is it something that I need to step away from? I talk about relationships a lot, and it's because I really think that human dynamics are more complicated and more challenging than just about anything else. Now, if you're a doctor, a surgeon, a scientist, maybe because those things are kind of foreign to me, I think they may be harder than human dynamics, but I don't even know if that's true. Relationships with people are challenging, perhaps the best thing in the world, but how do we tend to other people's hearts? How do we teach them to tend to ours? How can we navigate whatever the task is at hand and the people who are part of that task? It's not easy. And then you think about what is important and what's not important. In my spiritual community, we do a lot of service work, which is, I'm sure, is true in all spiritual communities. But the way that we do whatever the work is through the attitude of service. And we're taught that this is the way to live. And this is exactly what my family taught us. So it's in complete alignment. But in offering service in this community, there have been a couple of times when I was working on a project, a very important project that is impacting other people, and people who were part of the team were really difficult. Either something wasn't gelling well, somebody didn't understand whatever the task was at hand, the dynamics between people weren't working well. It was frustrating. So think about this in your work. You're working with people, you're working on a project, you're part of a team. You get along with this one, you don't get along with that one. That one doesn't seem to understand. Why is it so difficult for that one to understand? Most of us have had some kind of experience like this where you're doing some kind of work, but the dynamics, the human dynamics, don't feel so good. And with under the umbrella of keep good company, you could be thinking, what's going on here? And why is this person so difficult? Yeah, I think that person is my problem. And so that person becomes the bad guy and not part of good company. What I have learned when I've stepped back to really look at what's going on here, if you put humanity first. Put the people first. Look at them with compassionate eyes. What might be able to happen so that that person can do a better job? What can I do to help this moment? What can I do to draw upon the greatness in me to help amplify the greatness in that person? How can I be of service in this moment? Sometimes that's really hard to even want to do when you have a lot to do and you're like, pull your weight, you pull your weight. Saying that, pointing your finger doesn't make people pull their weight anymore. I'm sure you've seen that. Changing your lens and going, okay, let me look at this person differently. There's something this person needs that they can't do on their own. What can I do to support? How can I be of help? How can I be of service to this moment, to whatever the task is at hand? So I do my best to apply that in my business, in my life, and it has worked in very interesting ways. There was a time when some years ago when I was working with someone who I'd hired to do a task, and it wasn't the right task for that person. And over time, we figured out, no, this other thing is better for you. By figuring out what's best, the how do we take care of each other rather than rejecting each other? What can we do to notice what is good company about the people we're around? 'Cause yes, sometimes you have to walk away, but a lot of times you just need to look differently. Where's the goodness in this person for this moment? Where's the goodness in our dynamic for this moment? How can I be better in this moment so that others can be better? It's an attitude shift that we're talking about. And trust me, I'm saying it, and I can tell you it's hard to do because when you are frustrated, when you feel like something isn't going well, especially if you feel like someone other than yourself, because we never think we're the ones, someone is not pulling their weight or not doing a good job, not getting it, you can just be exasperated and just, ugh, that doesn't help. Take a deep breath instead. Look at the moment. So start with yourself. How can you be better company for yourself? Stop being judgmental. Take a breath. Slow down. Look at the situation differently. How can we put this puzzle together differently so that the company you're keeping can be refreshed and feel better and work harder and just be better? This is another angle on keeping good company. You don't always have to walk away. Sometimes you have to look at the relationship differently because usually there's goodness in the other person. And it's like watering a plant. If you water the good part of the plant, then that part's going to flourish. If you water the bad part, that part's going to flourish. We have so much power in the way that we think, the way that we behave, the way that we treat other people. And when we look for the goodness, seek it out, walk in the direction of the goodness, walk in the direction of the light, choose to be in alignment with goodness, then that's what happens. There's more goodness. It works. It works even on the darkest of days. It works to soften your relationship with the people you may be the most combative with when you change your lens, when you think about them as being valuable. If you think of somebody as being valuable when moments ago you thought, all I want is for this person to disappear, you may find that you can extract a better relationship. Because trust, people notice if you're looking at them with disdain, with disgust. And that's what they're going to give you more of. So this week, let's practice keeping good company, being the best company we can be with ourselves, right? And seeing others in the best possible light, choosing to put ourselves in situations where we are in alignment. But also, when you find yourself in a situation that you cannot leave, looking at it differently to see what good you can extract from it, what good you can bring to it. I'm looking as we're about to leave. I see lots of folks here. Let's see, Takara, good morning. Super Mustafa, hey stranger, hey back. The light read. Hello, everybody. Thank you so. Jam Planet. We just were together. Jam was part of this wonderful group that honored our friend Carla Ray. I will close with that. Honor the people you love. Show up for the people you love. It matters a lot. And it lasts long. That love fills their hearts and yours, and it lasts way past the event. Show up for the people you love. Show up for yourself. Be the greatest person you can be right now. Make yourself good company and choose good company to keep every day. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.